Green.
Do you find that, you know, younger generations in America are really getting into anime because the dubbing is kind of more quality? Like, I find that the voices, they make them kind of more annoying, more high-pitched, and they're not kind of true to the character.
The dub voices.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how they are in Japanese, unfortunately. A lot of it really is that way. The thing that we come across is that if we're not really familiar with the language, that when we hear it, it sounds like, well, that's how they are. But then you watch some of these live action, like recording sessions in Japan, and you see how they pitch themselves up. Some of them, it's very natural. That's how they are, because it's also a cultural thing. But the dubs that it gets me, it's not that they're overacting, because they are overacting in Japanese. That's one of the things that we find as you become a fan longer and longer and longer, is that the things that we felt were wrong about dubs is how the Japanese dubs are done as well. They are overacting and being bigger than life, because it's what the character calls for. It sounds more obvious, I guess would be one way to put it. It sounds more blatant and blunt and everything when you look at the dub versions here, because we're familiar with our language. We know nobody would talk like that in that situation. And then even if it's just a pitch or two lower in Japanese, it's still higher than normal conversational Japanese. So what gets me with dubs is just how the script gets changed, name changes, things like that. And I've just never been a fan of dubbing things, because I come from a much bigger film background. And I watched, unfortunately, a lot of dubbed live action films. Anime is better for it. I'm not against dubs for it. I want dubs on everything as possible. Live action films, if I see a dub, I want to kill somebody. So there's a little nuance to it, but you'll find that the longer and longer you watch stuff, especially in Japanese, you're going to go, oh my God, they are overreacting. It's so big. So, come on, we get stuff. Yeah, purple.
What Miyazaki's latest clip for Borrowers to you?
Which one?
The Borrowers.
Borrowers. The last I saw, that got bumped back to 2012. Because they were still going through changes here. I think they said that the fate of this film will determine their US office. But even if it does determine the fate and they close that office, they're still going to have, they're still part of Disney Japan. So there will still be things coming out here, but it won't get the same push. It'll go back down to art house level. Ponyo did good, but they've had diminishing returns every year with all their releases. So it gets down to the point of, well, we're not going to market this as a big kid's picture anymore. It's going to be one of our art house circuit pictures. So we'll still get everything, but Borrowers, the last I saw was, I think that was early this year, got pushed back to 2012. But the summer schedule is just crazy for this year and next year to begin with, so I'm not surprised for Hollywood in general. So, I want to see it.
What's your opinion? Who's going to win the war for a dollar? Hulu or Netflix? Which side? And
that's a hard one. I use a lot of Netflix, but I only rent discs from them, and they keep pushing the streaming stuff. And they do it well, but they do it so haphazardly. People in my family use it, but I don't use their streaming service at all. They frustrate me on a number of levels, so I don't want to talk positively about them. And it may not seem in some ways, but Netflix is also a very closed system at the moment. You can't share stuff. With Hulu, I know a lot of people don't like it because they have their issues with Canada, streaming up there and everything. But I watch something on Hulu and I write a review about it, I can share it. I can embed it. I can send you a link to, hey, go watch this episode. Hulu is a lot more accessible. It's more like the public broadcast of it. And Netflix is the premium version. I don't know which one's going to last out. I don't think either one will in the end. Netflix has a lot of things going for it, but they have a lot bigger issues. What I see really happening is that you're going to have Hulu. I'm expecting Hulu to die at some point, but to be reborn as something else, because they're having issues with companies that are pulling out. They're having licensing problems, funding. They're not sure what to do with Hulu. It's a great experiment to start, but now they're not sure.
So anime companies are pulling out of?
No, not anime companies, the Hollywood companies, the broadcasters, because they're saying, well, why am I sending all my people to, well, the problem is that the broadcasters, ABC, CBS, and some of the others own Hulu. But they're like, well, why am I sending people to the site that I own and get some revenue from when I can send them to my own site and do it there? You know, the same thing's going to probably happen with Crunchyroll at some point because the Japanese companies are going to go, well, why am I going to do it that way?
Aren't they legal though?
Who, Crunchyroll?
Yeah.
No, they've been legal for the past several years. They're 100% in the clear. They've been doing only deals with Japanese and showing stuff within an hour of an area. So took a lot of effort for me to get to that point, being able to say positively about them, but they are in the clear.
Okay.
And with Netflix, where you're not able to get out and show the stuff that easily to the very closed system, it's like a paid channel. So but they're having the same problems. The movie companies are saying, well, why am I letting you stream my movies? And they're talking about, well, they're actually doing stuff with Dish Network now where 60 days after it was in the theaters, for certain movies, they're going to start showing them there for $30 because they didn't get a wide distribution. And there's going to be more Hollywood companies saying, I'm going to start my own channel and do my own carriage that way. I'm going to start streaming all my stuff myself. It's going to get fractured again before it starts coming back together again.
Do they release numbers on the anime viewership versus everything else?
No.
Because I've been trying to get my hands.
It's all private companies, so they don't have to do anything. Unfortunately, I've been trying as well, and they're like,
What's the worst title you've ever watched?
Spirited Away. That's the one title that's ever put me to sleep. I won't include hentai in my stuff, because that's just real trash. Things that make me feel wrong. But Spirited Away, it's not the worst. But it's the one title I always go back to because it literally put me to sleep. I'm sitting there watching it. You know, normal 6 o'clock time, and it just did me in. It was the one Miyazaki movie I have not liked. And it continues to haunt me to this day. Because everybody will say, well, at least it's better than Spirited Away. When I give something a bad grade, they're like, that's worse than Spirited Away? You know, they give me that kind of grief for it. But that's the one that sticks the most. The stuff that I really don't like, it just, gone. Come up and take stuff.
Any thoughts on doing visual novel reviews on the site?
We've done some.
Have you?
You might see them a little easier to find in the game side.
Okay.
But we've done a few. John's been doing some of those. Tom's done some. We do some DS games review too that are very Japanese oriented. So we've had a few of those. Green.
I just had a quick question about basically, I know that a lot of series are now starting to try to do OVA stuff like Helsing, but but I know that Gion basically shut down and they keep getting absorbed and there's problems with distribution because I know Funimation has been basically saying that they're gonna start doing stuff pick up the properties that's taking forever. So a lot of these shows and properties they have basically they've been staying in still water for at least 2 or 3 years. Now, do you think it'll be difficult for them to basically get the fans back once they start doing that, or is this going to be a lost cause?
For some of the titles, I mean, that situation was weird. I think everybody announced stuff a little too early. They were excited about it, but nothing was firmed up for plans on how to do it, was the impression I got. Getting the fans back on them, for the most part, I think they will. I mean, it's a smaller market, and the people that are still buying are the ones that are going to buy those titles because they wanted them. They want the rest of Helsing. The advantage they have for some of it, depending on the titles, Helsing could be that'll be the exception no matter what, just because of what it is. But being able to remarket some of them and saying, you know, we've got the high def rights for it, come get it. That'll draw some people back in. It'll really come down to marketing. And a lot of what Geneon did have were titles that weren't going to sell big to begin with, but some of them were big name titles. Those are the ones that they can get back into a Best Buy. That's stuff that they can, especially with Funimation's relationship with Amazon, they can promote those heavily there. So, it's another title by title basis thing, but for some of them they'll be able to do pretty good on. Others they have low expectations to begin with. It was more, adding more to your overall library, which Funimation has always done. They have a really good library over the years. Being able to have the fans say, hey, Funimation did something that I want. In which in turn you think, hey, they did something for me. And that earns them a lot of credit. Then it's they get more eyeballs for their trailers for other shows that they're doing themselves. So it's their advantage to do it that way. Sometimes you get the big titles you sell really well in order to support the little ones. But sometimes you can do the reverse too by saying, hey, we got a little bit of money we're spending on this, deal with Geneon Japan, bring it out, we can get it going again, and then draw people to other things. So I don't think their expectations are high for some of them, but, you know, like, how many times did they remarket Black Lagoon once that got picked up? So I mean, they picked up a lot of Funimation, Geneon titles, and they have all the sales numbers in, you know, internal industry-wide for what sold when Geneon had it, so they know what to expect. So it's a lot of this. It's a title-by-title kind of issue. Don't get stuff. All right.
Any progress on getting the site updated?
What? What's wrong with it?
Oh, you know, the birthday bug.
That's out of my control.
Right.
That was because they merged the user accounts, and it's reading off of the Mania side, the top level side, and it doesn't connect properly with the forum account. And the forum account keeps resetting and resetting and resetting. That's why we're all 40 years old.
Right.
And we're all as old as me. There's no correlation between the two.
I'm over for it.
And that was just an example.
Hence why you get Demon Beast Resurrection. Actually, I'll say a little Master of Martial Arts.
Sure.
Watch the trailer for it first, it'll really get you going. Best trailer. Best trailer of last year was that show. That's all it is.
That's right.
All right.
What's your favorite full-length animation,
What-
anime, full-length anime movie?
Full-length anime movie. That has to go back to the Macross movie. Because I watched Robotech on TV, so excited about it. I went to a science fiction convention in Boston in '85, and somebody had a bootleg tape of it and called it the Robotech movie. And I'm like, okay, I'll spend $20 on that. You know, put it in, I'll get home, it's subtitled. What the hell is that? Who are these people? What are these names? But then they got really violent. And that was epic, and it wasn't the show, and then that was what really made me an anime fan. You know, that's what you usually find. There's always things that you really like as the years go on, but the ones that stick with you most are your firsts. And Robotech was my first real TV experience, because I didn't do Gatchaman or Battle of the Planets. I saw it, but you know, that was 6:30 in the morning. It's a real, you know, moment. And what was the other one? Yamato or Star Blazers was never for me. It was slightly before my time. I'm like, that's not Star Wars. And then, you know, but Robotech was what did it and got me in. And then that movie was like the defining movie for me. After that, it was nothing for a few years, because I was buying Robotech tapes and playing Robotech game. And then I go into the comic book store. I'm like, all right, my new comics this week. And it's like Bubblegum Crisis. Oh, and downhill. Hi, I'm up here now. You know, it's that kind of experience. I go in whole hog on some of these things.